Hello, welcome back to the ministry, and we're coming back for Follow Me. We are on the beginning of Breaking Dawn Part 2, but we're still talking about the same content. So I'm not sure whether I should make this a brand new, meaning a Part 1, or Part 8 or 9 of the last one. So we indeterminate right now. But right now, we're going to say it's either one of 9. So, do not take that as anything. I was just making the point of saying we don't know whether we won or we're on 9. Okay? That ain't mean nothing. uh but the film start out with Bella waking up. At the end of the last film, Bella darn near died. Some of you, and the Lord has brought me to this revelation while I was doing some moving around so that I could start recording this part. Some of you, I see this being the moment between the point in time in which she stopped responding to the point in time that she wakes up. There is a delay. There is going to be something that's going to test your God-ordained spouse that is going to be in a season of his isolation. Now, here's the catch 22 of this scenario. God showed me, remember when I did the review of Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, okay? In Snow White was in a incubated chamber for a series of months, meaning it went from winter season through the winter to the spring, okay? And then the prince showed up and came and got her. But in Sleeping Beauty, it was like you saw what happened during that season. I'm not saying you gonna have a moment where you almost die. I'm not. But I am gonna say this. In a couple of the films I've watched, there's a film called In Love with a Church Girl. If you have not seen that, with what's his name? Ja Rule and Adrian Bailon. She ended up getting in a car accident and was in a coma for a couple months. There may be a season where something may, God forbid, happen that you're going to be down for the count. Okay? Now, this may simply be the fact that you had the babies, what have you, and your physical body is under reconstruction, meaning you're healing, because if you have multiples and have a C-section, your body gonna be like, done, right? So you're gonna be in a state of healing. You ain't gonna be able to be moving around and up and doing what you do like you do right now. You're gonna be laid on your back, because if you have a C-section, you've been cut open. You ain't moving nowhere. And then on top of that, you gotta feed babies. On top of that, you're dealing with the the blood. After you give birth, there's 6 weeks of blood. So you're dealing with that. You're dealing with the hormones from the placenta being removed. And then on top of that, you gotta deal with the hormonal changes. You've been cut open. The fact that you can't be doing too much moving around through your healing process. And you still gotta deal with these babies. So you're going to be in a state where you're kind of going to be in a stasis. You can't do much. Your husband's going to have to be the one that's going to take control of this situation, right? Because after she gave birth to the child, they had to make sure that the child was being tended to while they were also trying to deal with her. God forbid any of y'all end up in a scenario where you have to be in a coma for a period of time. May God forbid it. And Lord knows I forbid to God that I have to be in a coma after I have my kids. Jesus, let that not be the case for me. But there's certain things your husband's going to have to do without your readily availableness. And in this case, he had to do these things without her advice, her being present, her having anything to do with it. Meaning your God-ordained spouse is going to have to make some grown man put on some big boy pants type decisions that are imperative for you and the kids, while you are either incapacitated or unable to do much of anything. Okay? Because you're just too busy at this particular point in time. So it's going to be a level of stasis. Coming back to the Snow White reference, Snow White ain't know nothing that was going on with what the prince was doing up until the point he came to come get her. Sleeping Beauty didn't know what the prince was doing up until that point. She ain't know nothing about the fact that he had been kidnapped. She didn't know nothing about the fact that the angels had to guide him out. She didn't know anything about the fact that he had to go through a level of wilderness. Your husband may have to go through a level of wilderness without you. It's not going to be long, because Edward did not have to wait long. It was within a 24-hour period that she woke back up. It wasn't even that long, because it was nightfall when they had to do what they had to do to her body. And it was the next morning when her body came back to itself. So it may be a period of extended time, whether you want to look at it as hours relating to months, that the amount of time that she was under going through the healing process to become the fullness of herself, you're going to have to go through a healing process to get back to the fullness of yourself. But at this particular point, they're waiting until her eyes open. When your eyes open, you will be changed. Okay? There is going to come a point where you're going to come into a status change and stasis change, that when you get to where you're going and your elevation, there's going to be an eye-opening revelation that the Lord has saved specifically for this moment. Eye-opening. Necessary for that elevation you're about to step into. But once she wakes up, they come to the revelation she is stronger. She's not just stronger because she's a vampire. She's stronger than Edward. Meaning your strength is going to be more powerful than your husband's. Meaning there's something you got that's more powerful than him. Of course, you got God. But there's something else in relation to something, maybe the revelation, something God has given you between the two of you is going to be more powerful than him. Because he was at her beck and call in that situation. She was stronger. But Edward's sister also has visions. I was just going to mention Edward's sister having vision. Your family, the family you're going into, they may also have some of the same gifts that you have. Just for recollection's point. That they may have the gifts that you have. Some of them have been fighting you because of the fact that you've been spiritually in a fight, because they got certain gifts. I remember a while back, because some of them may have gifts, but they're not using it for good. they may be using it for evil. The Lord showed me in a dream chakra tapping. Chakra tapping is tapping into somebody else's vision. Monitoring spirit. Some of them may have similar gifts but be using it in the wrong way. Now, Edward's sister was using it the right way. He was helping them. But I just wanted to give you that caveat while we were here. Okay? Edward and Bella go out into the woods. This reminds me back of the point in which I made in the word. It ties right back into Adam and Eve in the garden. Okay? They're frolicking outside in the woods now that she's awake. You and your spouse have now reached your state of peace. Remember, when David finally got his rest, your God-ordained spouse is going to be in his Davidic rest. Okay? This is when all his enemies round about him rested, and he could rest, go into his new, and also bear his children, have his family, so on and so forth. Your husband will be in a state of rest with you and your children. But in this state, he's going to be also teaching you what you need to know. I don't know who did the video, but somebody I was listening to recently said that your God-ordained spouse is going to be giving you the instructions necessary in order to, it's a young woman that's new. I'd never listened to her. That's what it was. He's got the instructions. He's the teacher. I've had several dreams where my God-ordained spouse was my proctor and my teacher in my college class, which gave me recollection to back when I was in high school and college, and there was that one teacher, and I'm just having a moment. Don't get on me. Back in the day, I was too young. It was not happening. But there was this dude. He used to walk in the classroom. He was the proctor that did all of the subbing for middle school, high school. Dude's name, Mr. Black. He would come in wearing all black leather. That's my jam over there. And he was just like the cool teacher. It's like the equivalent of when Steve turned into Stefan Urkel. And it was like, who that there? I was 15. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. But that's the point. That's what your husband was for you in your dreams. He was the proctor of the class. And you were sitting there like, hello. What you teaching me today, boo? Well, guess what? That's what your husband's going to be. He going to be teaching you. Some of y'all, your God-ordained spouse done gave you the assignment. You just had to receive it. I've had some renditions of the dream where he was late. I was late to class. All kinds of stuff. So things have been interfered with. Okay. You know. So she ends up climbing a mountain at excessive speed. Pause. There are things that you have been stalled on, paused on, couldn't get done. Things you were trying to get done. Seemed like you was climbing this mountain for the longest time and never could reach the top. Guess what? Now that you are associated with your God-ordained spouse, you're going to excel at an expedient rate. The way she ran up this mountain, it was no time whatsoever. I always make the Kim Possible reference, which brings back the reference everybody else makes about God. God is I'm possible. Lady Jeremiah just did a video the other day called It's Possible. I think it's called It's Possible or something like that. But she references the song It's Possible or Impossible from the movie Cinderella. But the Kim Possible reference is always sticks in my head. Kim Possible had the ability to run at a certain speed. And I think this happened in one episode. And she was running so fast that everything around her looked like it was moving in slow motion. And I say that because some of us have felt like our seasons were operating in slow motion. And I always say that it's not that we're moving slowly, it's that we're moving so fast, the rest of the world is moving slow. So to us, because our eyes see the slowness of everything else, we think we moving slow. We're not moving slow. We're moving at an expedient rate. She was moving at an expedient rate. She raced up that mountain. Literally. She ran up that mountain in less than 0 to 5 seconds. There are things that God has given you. You've been sitting up there trying to figure out, God, why is this taking so long? God is a God that gives you back the time in which you lost. So when this thing transpires, you gonna run up this wall. You gonna run up this mountain. The very things that you've been sitting up there wondering if you gonna ever put your hands to and get it done. Once you get with husband, guess what? Now it's going to happen. But notice this. There are 3 phases to this process that got to occur between now and you being able to run up that mountain. What are they? 1 is either your courtship into your wedding, your elopement into the manifestation of the actual family ceremony. After you get married, having your children, and phase 3 is your healing. She had to heal before she could get up and run anywhere. Remember Esther? Esther was in place. She got married to Xerxes, but it took 5 years for her need to be met. You're going to be prepping. And you still might not, because she running up mountains and stuff, meaning she's catching up on the time in which she lost during all that time frame. But you're going to have to get that 1, 2, however many years or what have you. You're going to go accelerated to catch you up from all that time frame in which you lost on the things in which you have been standing for. You're going to catch that up. And that's where you are in this moment. You're going to run up a mountain, which is reminding me of the scripture from Revelations, that you're going to have wings. That the woman, when she came out of her isolation, had wings and she could fly. You have had wings and you're now going to be able to fly. Okay? And since we're here, I might as well go into that scripture. Hold on. So I found the scriptures, Revelations 12. So this in itself almost depicts what this movie was, where so you have the woman who had the crown of 12 stars and the sun and moon upon her head. She was being with child, travailing in birth. She just had the baby, right? Okay. And she delivered. She was in pain in delivery. Bella was in pain in delivery. There appeared a wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. There's been something that has been desiring to take you out. Something has not wanted you and your God-ordained spouse together, and did not want your God-ordained spouse to have kids. Let's just get right straight to the point. That was the thing. having 7 heads and 10 horns, 7 crowns upon its head. These, I've said it before in the other video where I talked about this revelation, that these are people and the 7 mountains of influence. So there are going to be people in these 7 mountains. Don't want you making this impact that you're about to make. And the children, they really don't want that. And his tail drew third part of the stars in heaven. God already said he gonna take out a third of the people that are in the industry that are in high power. Already done said that. And he did cast them. The dragon stood before the woman which was ready to deliver, and in order to devour her and the child as soon as it was born. She brought forth a man child who was to rule all the nations. Your children are going to make an impact on the earth. And that's what the enemy's been fighting, both of you getting together for all this time. So, her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. God is going to, in these intern times, protect your kids. There's a level of protection that he's going to give. Remember when I said that Jacob imprinted? God's going to put almost a spiritual imprint on your kids that can't nobody touch these kids. I remember Stephanie P doing a video where she talked about Daniel Ruiz, I forget what's his name, the Spanish pastor who was involved in Satanism, and he talked about when he was trying to put witchcraft on a Christian, and this is what delivered him, that when that happened, Satan pretty much came to him. Nick said, you ain't gonna be able to put nothing on this particular person. They're covered by God and the blood of Jesus Christ. Your kids will be protected by God from the things that could hurt, harm, or be dangerous to them, okay? But in this moment, the woman fled into the wilderness. You, Bella, being in that coma for that period of time, you going into isolation, that was this isolation, okay? This is a level of a secondary isolation from your firstary isolation. Just roll with it, because this isolation has to do with you and your spouse, okay? And the woman had to be fled into the wilderness, a place prepared by God. God is preparing these places that you and your spouse are going to be held up in while God's preparing these types of things. So, no, you want me to go into that? I think I'm going to skip forward in that. The battle was preparing to be. The reason I'm skipping it is because we're going into a battle in this film. So I'm going to hold off on that part, but I'm going to say, when did she come out? Hold on. There's going to be a first siege. David, remember when he was in battle with the Philistines, and these Philistines, was it the Philistines or was it another army? But they kept coming back around. It's like he defeated the Philistines in another part of the book, but they came back a second time. Just like in this passage, they were fighting this war spiritually with the snake, the Leviathan spirit, and they fought him. But they put her away for a season while this was happening. There's things going to be happening behind your back that your goddamn spouse is going to be dealing with that you ain't got nothing to do, no knowledge of, because he's trying to protect you, especially during your pregnancy and during your healing process. You ain't going to know nothing about that. It's going to be between you and God. The best thing you can do during that season is lay there and pray. Lay there, pray, take care of your body, take care of the babies once they come out. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. Where am I? Okay. So the dragon saw in which he had been persecuted, and the woman which brought forth the man child. Okay, this persecution. There are people that are in high level positions that by you coming in, remember what I said in the previous word in the Adam and Eve when I was talking about the persecution of the counterfeit. There is about to be a persecution, but there is an anger towards you. You're going to come out of this situation just like Bella did with wings. Meaning you coming out with wings. And this is so interesting. Is it the word dual transformation? Yes. Diani Nev's video, Dual Transformation, she talks about the young woman in the program she was looking at, that the character, I don't know whether it was a program or a dream she had of the people in the program, but the woman was in water and she had wings grow out of her back, and they were rainbow jubilant rings. She went through a transformation. The transformation that you're going to go through, meaning when you're in your cocoon, which will be that isolation period. For her, it was the fact that she went into a coma until she came out on the other side of that situation. You're going to go through a physical, spiritual, emotional, all kinds of stuff transformation. But when you stand up and come out of that, you're going to have the wings as eagles. And wings of an eagle, and she might fly into the wilderness, which means you're going into another wilderness. I know. God keeps putting you in wilderness. You're like, let's go. And God's like, no, not yet. Go back into the wilderness. You and your husband gonna go back into the wilderness, and this is when he's going to be teaching you how to deal with what it is that you have, operate in your body, learning to operate in your body. So he tells her not to kill a human being. There's a human being on the mountain. He thought that they were up there by themselves, but there was a test. You're going to be tested in your prior knowledge. Everything God gave you, your husband going to test and see if you're capable of using that. And God's going to allow this. You just went through your training process in this isolation period you in right here, right now. But you can't forget it in the next 3 isolation periods that you're going to go through. One with your spouse for your engagement, one with your spouse after the wedding, one with your spouse after while you in healing process after the babies. But you can't forget everything that you learned when it comes time that your husband's like, okay, now I need to test you because I got to send you in. We got to go in together. So because they got to go in with you together, they need to test you. Are you easily provoked? Are you easily going to jump? Are you easily going to take his instructions? He told her as she was running up that mountain, stop. When he said stop, she stopped. You gotta be that obedient to your God-ordained spouse. The industry, the place that he is, the place that you're going, he knows it better than you do. You can't pretend that you know where he's been at. You don't. So if he tell you stop, you better sit your butt down and stop. Because he knows exactly what's coming around the corner. Okay? So he said stop. She stopped. And instead, she redirected herself and found a fawn, grabbed it and killed it instead. And a lot of the vampires were saying, wow, she good. Most people cannot control that level of hunger. You are going to be able to control yourself when it comes to going into these industries that have